We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it.
This Turning Point conference, the were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and the cigar.
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican, speak up against these against the flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
He's going to hunt you down. He's going to find out what's going on. And that's good. That's good for everybody. That's how you should be looking at this. Like, wow, we have a brilliant mind that is examining these really corrupt and goofy systems and bringing in a bunch of psychopath wizards. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
Joe Rogan didn't just respond. He roared into the spotlight. The moment Charlie Kirk slapped The View with a jaw-dropping $100 million lawsuit, Rogan stepped in and set the internet on fire. This wasn't some harmless squabble on a talk show. No, this was a full-blown media war, and Joe Rogan brought verbal ammunition that landed like bombs on live television. Kirk's lawsuit wasn't a bluff. It was a warning shot, and Rogan saw it for what it was: a call-out, a challenge, and a showdown, all rolled into one explosive moment. Charlie Kirk, the head of Turning Point USA, had finally had enough. After The View hosts casually tossed out wild accusations about his student event, he didn't just get mad. He got legal. We're talking about 5,000 students, some as young as 16, who were dragged into a public controversy by a group of hosts who didn't seem to care who got burned, as long as they got their applause. And that's exactly why Joe Rogan exploded with laughter and fury.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there, of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country, that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to...
Because to him, it was all so fake, so shallow, and so deeply unfair to young people who just wanted to be heard. Rogan didn't hold back. He compared The View to a clown car of daytime drama, saying they dished out insults like candy until someone fought back. What made the whole thing even juicier? Charlie Kirk wasn't just demanding an apology, he was demanding $100 million in damages. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's a sledgehammer to the face. And Joe Rogan, he couldn't resist sinking his teeth into it. With that familiar smirk and sarcastic tone, he tore through The View's hypocrisy like a lion through paper. He mocked their sudden silence once the legal letter hit. Funny, Rogan said, they're so loud until someone threatens to empty their bank accounts. Rogan then turned his attention to the so-called apology from The View. The hosts tried to walk back their claims with a short, awkward statement, one that Rogan called as fake as a soap opera wedding. They weren't sorry they said it, Rogan laughed. They were sorry they got caught. That comment alone went viral within hours, racking up millions of views. The View's defenders were quick to jump in. But even their usual talking points fell flat, because this wasn't just about politics, it was about integrity. Joe Rogan reminded everyone why his platform is so powerful. He doesn't just react, he exposes the ugly truths hiding under carefully crafted media smiles. he mocked Whoopi Goldberg's bizarre take on presidential power. She literally said Biden could just throw all Republicans in jail. Rogan said, eyes wide, "What planet are they living on?" Clips of Whoopi's rant were everywhere, and Rogan's reaction only made it worse.
So, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing
just
there.
Go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there. Sometimes comics do that.
Audiences were stunned. Some laughed, others cringed, but no one could ignore it. Then came Rogan's brutal roast of Sunny Hostin. He pointed out how she looked down on Americans without college degrees, calling it elitist nonsense wrapped in fake compassion. "You don't need a degree to have common sense," Rogan shouted. "Some of the smartest people I've met never set foot in a university." And just like that, the conversation shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't just about a lawsuit. It was about The View's pattern of silencing, shaming, and steamrolling anyone who disagrees with them. Joe didn't stop there. He slammed The View for their history of talking over conservative women, then playing the victim, and viewers across the political spectrum cheered him on. And that's why this moment wasn't just viral, it was volcanic. The lawsuit, the apology, and Rogan's ruthless takedown created a media firestorm like no other. As the lawsuit made headlines across the country, Rogan kept throwing punches, calm, calculated, and cutting. He didn't need a script or a teleprompter. He just spoke the truth, and it hit like a hammer. Rogan shook his head while replaying clips from The View. They sit there, wagging their fingers like moral police. But the moment someone slaps them with a legal reality check, they panic. The podcast legend wasn't done exposing the hypocrisy. He laughed about how quickly the show's tone changed after the cease and desist letter landed. Suddenly, all that confidence was gone. "They love to throw labels around," Rogan said. "But the second someone says courtroom and damages, they start stuttering like they forgot their lines." And let's be honest, this wasn't just some minor mistake on live TV. This was a national embarrassment, and Joe Rogan held up the mirror for everyone to see the cracks.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
Let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail. Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
He joked that watching The View try to backpedal was like watching a raccoon trying to escape a spotlight. Chaotic, clumsy, and completely unbelievable. And people loved it. Social media exploded with memes, reactions, and Rogan's scathing one-liners. Hashtags like "You Sue The View" and "Rogan Roast" trended for days. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk stood firm. He wasn't interested in half-hearted apologies or soft corrections. He wanted accountability, and Rogan backed him every step of the way. They dragged 16-year-olds into a public smear campaign, Rogan snapped, and they think they can just erase it with a 5-second apology? Absolutely not. He then tore into the media for pretending this was just a misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion. It was character assassination dressed up as commentary. And Rogan made sure to call out the pattern. How The View consistently targets conservatives, then acts surprised when they get pushback. He compared the show to a daytime echo chamber, where opposing ideas are shouted down, edited out, or mocked into silence. And don't forget what they did to Meghan McCain, Rogan added. They invited her just to humiliate her week after week. He reminded his audience that The View has a long history of mistreating dissenting voices, and now they finally picked a fight with someone who could fight back. The lawsuit wasn't just about Charlie Kirk. It was about every guest they've silenced, every student they've misrepresented, and every lie they've let slide for the sake of ratings. Joe Rogan called it the reckoning daytime TV never saw coming. And people across the country started asking, is this the beginning of the end for The View? Rogan didn't mince words. He called some of the hosts performers in a circus of self-righteousness, pretending to care while cashing big checks and dodging the truth. As Rogan's commentary went viral, clips of Whoopi and Sunny reacting to the lawsuit began circulating, and they didn't look strong. They looked shaken.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. You know, and they always bring on a token conservative woman, and they yell over her and silence her, and, you know, they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's just, it's a bizarre show.
Their eyes say it all, Rogan said. They know they crossed a line this time, and now they're terrified of what comes next. And the most shocking part, there was no official pushback to Rogan's statements, no fiery response, no Twitter rebuttal, just silence. That silence spoke volumes. For a show built on bold voices and louder opinions, The View suddenly looked like it had lost its voice. Joe Rogan picked up on that fear instantly. You can tell when someone's faking confidence, he said. Their words are loud, but their body language is screaming regret. Fans of the show were stunned. Some said they'd never seen The View this rattled before. Even longtime viewers began asking whether the hosts had gone too far this time. And Rogan, with his trademark sarcasm, didn't let up. It's like watching a courtroom version of reality TV, he joked. Except this time, the drama has real consequences. The courtroom drama wasn't just on paper, it was spilling into every corner of daytime television. Headlines screamed, $100 million lawsuit, while Rogan's face filled millions of screens. Every time The View tried to spin the story, Rogan clapped back harder. This isn't about politics, he said. It's about decency. And they forgot how to spell that a long time ago. People who once brushed off The View as harmless chatter were now glued to the scandal. Lawsuit documents, Rogan's commentary, and public backlash, it all created a media firestorm. At the center of it all stood Charlie Kirk, calm and calculated, while Rogan kept the spotlight burning hot on every contradiction and every excuse the hosts tried to sell. The contrast was brutal. On one side, you had a legal team preparing to rip apart every false statement. On the other, a talk show trying to patch holes in its sinking ship. Viewers couldn't stop talking about the moment Rogan played that now infamous clip of Whoopi suggesting Biden could jail Republicans if he wanted. He paused, looked at the camera, and asked, How is this even real?
Megan, I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of, like, there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
X.
X.
Okay.
Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one. It's rough.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
It wasn't just criticism. It was comedic devastation. And it worked. Because people realized this wasn't just exaggeration. It was a complete detachment from reality. As the clips circulated, reaction videos, podcasts, and commentary exploded across platforms, and Rogan's takedown remained the centerpiece of it all. Some journalists began asking the question, had The View finally met its match? Could a lawsuit and a podcast host shake the very foundations of one of the most well-known TV talk shows in America? Even media outlets that usually stayed silent started joining in. Everyone wanted to know, how did things get so bad that The View might have to settle in court just to survive? Rogan doubled down in a follow-up podcast. They want to play victim now, he said. But where was that sensitivity when they dragged a bunch of teenagers into their culture war? He reminded his audience that these weren't public figures. They were high schoolers and college kids, many of whom were being targeted simply for showing up at an event. And that, Rogan said, was the most shameful part of all. You don't go after kids to make a political point and then pretend it's journalism. The impact of his words was powerful. Parents, educators, and even non-political viewers began to see the issue in a new light, and The View could feel the shift. In response, one of the hosts tried to clarify the situation, but it only made things worse. She stumbled, hesitated, and gave an awkward explanation that only fueled Rogan's next episode. Joe Rogan didn't hesitate to respond to that fumbled explanation. They're spinning in circles now, he laughed. You can't walk this back with vague words and nervous stutters. It's too late. His audience was hooked. Comments poured in by the thousands. Viewers who had never even watched The View now wanted to know what on earth was going on. Rogan went deeper in his final blow. He reminded everyone that when media platforms start targeting people based on political beliefs, it's no longer entertainment. It's manipulation. He mocked their selective outrage. One day, it's moral outrage. The next day, it's my bad. And then it's back to business like nothing happened. That's not journalism. It's emotional bait. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk's legal team quietly ramped up their preparations. The discovery phase loomed, and insiders hinted that emails, meeting notes, and internal memos were about to surface.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right. whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, we're on the right side. And if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do. And no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK. They'll see Elon Musk.
That's what had The View so shaken. This lawsuit wasn't just public. It was personal. It had teeth, and it was about to bite hard. Rogan grinned as he discussed what could happen next. Imagine those depositions. Imagine what gets revealed when everyone's under oath. The thought alone sent chills through the studio world. This wasn't just another gossip storm. It was a turning point in how mainstream TV handles accountability. As social media continued to erupt, late-night hosts cautiously avoided the topic, afraid that one misstep could land them in the same kind of legal minefield. But Rogan wasn't afraid. The difference is, I don't hide behind cue cards and corporate scripts. I say what's real, even if it stings. And sting it did. Viewers began calling The View a relic, out of touch, out of ideas, and now dangerously close to being out of time. Some demanded resignations, others called for a total reboot of the show. But one thing was clear: its reputation had taken a massive blow. Rogan's mockery wasn't just a roast, it was a reality check wrapped in razor-sharp wit. And the more they ignored him, the louder his message echoed. He exposed a pattern: insult first, apologize later, and act surprised when someone hits back with force. But this time, the force came with a legal bill attached. And that's what changed everything. This lawsuit sent a chilling message across the media landscape. If you smear people without proof, be ready to pay the price. Rogan called it a new era of accountability, and millions agreed. Viewers were tired of manufactured outrage with zero responsibility. As the lawsuit moved forward, ABC's legal team worked overtime. But no amount of legal jargon could undo the damage already done. The View's brand wasn't just bruised, it was bleeding, and Rogan made sure the spotlight never left that wound. In the end, the lawsuit and the roast combined into one massive cultural reckoning. A political firestorm turned media circus, and everyone was watching. So what's next for The View? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain: they'll think twice before throwing careless accusations again, because Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk just made it very expensive to lie on live TV.